Hi everyone, welcome back to Legally Yours. I'm here again with Jacqui Brauman from TBA Law. And in this episode, it's going to be really interesting. I wanted to sort of delve a little bit deeper into our digital assets and estate planning and what happens when we pass, because I think it's something that would be fairly a new kind of territory and domain, and not a lot of people would go in when they speak to their estate planning lawyer and actually ask the question about those things. And the beautiful Jacqui has actually written a book about it and done a thesis about it. So Jacqui, my question, I guess, essentially is it important to actually deal specifically with your digital assets in your will? And what sort of things should people be thinking about in relation to this topic?
It is important to touch on. You don't have to touch on each individual thing itself, but your mind certainly has to be turned to it, and the lawyer that you're with certainly has to address it. Okay. So I suppose there's three main categories in your digital estate. There are things that you have licenses to use. Yeah. There are actual assets that you own, and then there are just platforms where you have accounts where you might also have assets.
Okay.
So in terms of licensing, I'm talking about your iTunes account.
Yeah.
So we buy our movies, we buy our TV series, we buy our music on iTunes. You don't actually own it.
Yeah.
You can't transfer it. So it's a license agreement that you have, and you're putting all that money into something that you actually don't own. So people have to realise that that's not transferable.
Yes.
Then we have our social media platforms and other platforms which we use and we share things on, and Facebook's a perfect example of that. So you do actually own the photos and things that you put into Facebook.
Yeah.
But nothing else really is that you can recover from Facebook.
Okay.
So Facebook and Google, in fact, are unique because they actually address succession as part of their service.
Okay.
So with Facebook, you can appoint someone who is going to either memorialize your account or close it down after you pass away.
Okay.
And similarly with Google, you can appoint someone who is your inactive account manager. And so if you don't log in and use Google for 6 months, they contact the person that you have appointed. And that person can then download all your assets.
Yep.
And then decide whether they want to memorialize your page in Facebook.
Yep.
Or close the account off completely. So we don't want to keep a Facebook page up for someone who's deceased without it being memorialised, because it will keep asking people to be friends, and it will keep going on to birth dates and things.
Absolutely,
like
which can be quite traumatic and quite, particularly in some of these situations. So no, that's absolutely, right. Yep. And the third.
Yes, and the third are actual assets. So things that you just have stored in a cloud scenario, like a Dropbox sort of account. So these are actually things you've created, whether it's photos, whether it's written work. And so these accounts are generally not Australian-owned companies. Yeah. They're usually US companies. However, the US companies, when they deal with international subscribers, they then have a subsidiary company in Ireland. So in fact, your assets are covered by European laws, and so they won't necessarily recognise our laws. And that's why we need something explicit in our documents giving people power to access accounts that aren't theirs.
Okay.
And recover passwords.
Okay. Gosh, fascinating stuff. And I think if you even lay it on top of that, obviously identity theft and different things can also, when you start looking at the cyber aspect to it and the security as well, that all comes into play as well, because you need to be able to be doing something with those sorts of things. Otherwise you leave obviously yourself open to perhaps even being embroiled in something like that with, after you've passed. So really important stuff. And would you recommend then, when someone is going to see their estate planning lawyer, that this be raised and obviously a provision being put in, like you say, particularly with the third criteria of your digital estate, actually putting something specific in there to give that authority?
Yes, I certainly do. I think that people going to their lawyer need to raise it, because a lot of people drawing wills won't necessarily be covering this. And so you need to ask the question, is will this deal with my digital estate as well?
Okay.
So not only in your will, but also potentially in your power of attorney as well, because if you lose capacity, it's still something that needs to be dealt with.
Fascinating stuff. So if this is resonating with you and you would like to speak to Jacqui for a consultation on this, you can head to our platform at legallyyours.com.au and you will find Jacqui's profile there, or you can head to tbalaw.com.au, or you can download Jacqui's book. What was the name of the book that you deal with on this, Jacqui?
Death and Social Media.
Death and Social, I like it. So you can get a copy of Death and Social Media. Thank you so much, Jacqui. Really fascinating stuff, and it's wonderful to have you part of our platform.
Thank you.